Hey, welcome to the All Ambient podcast, where we dig into the creative process, we hear untold stories, and we explore the minds of some really brilliant people who are behind some of the finest ambient music out there. My name's Mike Graff. I make music as Dear Gravity. Really excited to be here together with you. Today, I got to dig into conversation with Thomas Haahr of Stilhed. What an incredible artist. Has been doing his thing across multiple labels, multiple years. He's a prolific guy, and man, just judging by the wall of modular synth racks that he has behind him in his shot, in his home studio, no less, not even his studio. Thomas is a uniquely creative guy, and we got to explore the balance of work and life, how to take steps of bravery and really move in the direction of putting ourselves in the best place we can be to create what we've been called to create. Great interview. You're not going to want to miss it. Before we get there, make sure you come join All Ambient on Discord if you haven't yet. The link is in the show notes. Great conversations going on there. A lot of different artists, a lot of different musicians, producers, composers connecting, talking about all sorts of things, not the least of which is the podcast conversation on Discord, where we talk about each episode. You can ask additional questions, you can provide feedback, and you can even ask questions for future episodes if you would like. It's a great place to hang and connect with other like-minded folk. Come and join All Ambient on Discord. And also, make sure you go to all-ambient.com. Lots of great releases in the All Ambient family are coming out on streaming and licensing platforms. They're multiplying day by day in the best way. The number of releases that are coming out, any sort of quality in what's being released, quite the opposite. The number of people who are incredible at what they do and who are attached to All Ambient continues to grow. And it is just a great thing. When you head over to All Ambient's website, coming in the near future, you will start seeing some resources that are dropping. We have plans to be rolling them out this year, not in a tease sort of way, but just in a we are actively working on things. And we'll be very excited to share them with you when they arrive, and it's going to be great. But that's the place you're going to want to be at. all-ambient.com is the hub for all that. Enough of me blabbing. Let's dig right into today's conversation. I am thrilled today to be hanging out with none other than Thomas Haahr of Stilhed, who is joining us from just outside Copenhagen, Denmark. Thomas, welcome to the All Ambient podcast. So glad to have you, man.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Yes, this is one of those relationships where we've certainly known each other from afar for quite some time, but it's really special to have this be a face-to-face and we get to connect and spend some time together. So really, really glad you're here. Very much so.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you, finally.
Right back at you. And for anyone who's not just listening to the audio but watching the video, you've got yourself a pretty, and you even corrected me before we hit the record button, but this is just your home studio setup. This isn't even like your studio setup, but I'm looking at this wall of modular synths that you have over behind you, and in addition to the Juno, which I love, and I'm a Juno guy too. But man, just the modular synth wall, what a great! It's not a prop, don't get me wrong, but it certainly looks cool. And of course,
it does.
Of course, listening to your stuff, I mean, you hear influence and you hear example of that constantly, and man, that's a feat right there. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I probably have a few more modules than I use. That's a classic thing.
You're not alone in that. Yeah,
but they're nice to look at least.
They're gorgeous. Well, and I'm sure we'll get into more of kind of your unique perspective and kind of the way that you approach what you do as Stilhed. But I would love to hear let's just go back to the beginning a little bit. Tell me a little bit, Thomas, about what the early journey in music looked like for you. Like when you first kind of noticed along the way as you're growing up, like, wow, I think music is going to be a part of my life. I think I'm going to be putting some effort into this. Yeah. Tell me the story of Thomas and music.
Yeah. I think it started pretty early. Yeah. But my journey into creating music and doing my own music didn't start before pretty late. So I didn't play like an instrument from a young age. I started playing in school, like in middle school. Mm-hmm. I played the cornet. I think it's called a cornet.
Yeah, similar to a trumpet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
a bit shorter, but in a brass band.
Yeah.
And
so cool.
that was my first instrument. And then I wanted to learn to play the piano, but I didn't have the patience for that. I don't know if it was my teacher trying to teach me, like, you have to play this way or certain finger positions and stuff like that. That didn't really gel with me. I wanted something that I could just, get a sound out of pretty fast. And I found a guitar that my father had bought. He's not very, I would say, he's never played music. I'm not from like a very musical family, but he had that guitar, and I found that guitar and I played on it. Once I found it, then I just played on it for all the time I could get.
Absolutely.
So in my young teenage years, I played a lot of guitar. Just at home, not really with anybody. I did play in bands, but I think I've always thought of myself as somebody who was a little bit insecure in my own abilities to play music. I always compared myself to other people who were better or something like that,
Sure.
So it wasn't before my adulthood, when I became like maybe 20, 21, I started being more serious about my music. But I had already played a lot before then. And that was when I met some people I still know today. I have a good friend named Jacob, which plays the piano. And
Jacob David, I
yeah,
believe.
exactly.
Yep.
I've known him for many, many years. And I think it was just the people that I met that became friends. And then I kind of found my own way into start making my own stuff and making stuff with other people and actually make music, not just dream about making music, but end up doing it. So
yeah. Just kind of it just happened. Was that because I remember was the Jacob David collab release that you did with that was pretty early in your story of releasing stuff, right?
Yeah, and it was actually the first. I've done music before that, but the first thing I released as Stilhed was actually because Jacob and I did a lot of music for commercials, and we also tried to make our own library.
Love it.
Which is a hard thing to do, but so we kind of gave up. But we had I had so much music on my computer, like hours and hours of music that either hadn't been used or had been used, but never released. And he just mentioned it one day and said, "Hey, Thomas, you could maybe you could, tweak those tunes a bit, and they could become something that could be released." And I just did that.
Love it.
And it came in a time of my life where I changed. A lot of things happened. I had before that, you get a family and you get kids, and you don't have the same time as you used to have.
This is very true.
So it almost came out of necessity. Like I had to sit down and do something else because I couldn't just stop making music.
Yeah.
It became, the stuff I could do on my own without too many people involved. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Tell me, so we're going to weave the whole synth world and the modular racks and all that fun stuff into it. Tell me a little bit more about how that approach and that particular instrument, that particular part of the whole music equation was something that jumped out at you. Was there early interest in that and then you just started collecting the gear, or was it something? Yeah, just let's explore that one a little.
Actually, when I was playing in that brass band, I think it was 5th grade. I was on a trip to Norway.
Yeah.
There was another orchestra in Norway, and they would come and visit us every second year, and we would go visit them. And then I stayed at a family, and we had dinner at their place. And then while waiting for, dinner getting ready, they said, "Oh, you can go to the basement, and you can just, have fun."
Yeah.
And down there, they had it was like a music store. I was like, walls with synths and drum sets and guitars and basses and everything. And I think that when I saw that, I just felt I want something like this. This is I want a cave like this. I can sit in and just play with the sounds.
Yeah.
And that's when it really started. And I didn't do much about it before I was, had something I could, a job, and you can start buying stuff. And so whenever I've seen like an old synth or something interesting, I've always gone out and bought it. So I have like a ton of stuff in the studio, and I don't really use it that much now. But every now and then I will open something up or start a synth up and just see if I can get some sounds, record them, and I will resample them. And that's the funny part. I just sample them into my computer and use them again because I'm a bit, it's fun to record them, but it's also a hassle to connect the synth every time and do like a recording that way. So it's more like a place where I have my own little cave with sounds I can go and create. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and we were just already getting into it a little bit before we even hit the record button. And you mentioned a couple things that I think are brilliant and also maybe very counterintuitive to a lot of people who make music inside the box all the time now. You're mentioning just with like a modular synth rack, the idea of like you really can't replicate that sound. Like once that sound is dialed in, it is it could be gone in a heartbeat. There's anything in the chain changes, and good luck getting back to that, which is like frightening, but also exhilarating, and you're really committing to that, and just the like the destructive quality, like the idea of like, well, it cannot be anything but this. You can't. It's not being reamped or anything like that. This is what it is. And then of course you can do whatever you want in the in your computer with it. But yeah, does that because I always love exploring the creative process, and I want to hear a little bit more about yours. But tell me how that like committed part of the whole creating music thing plays into it. Like, is that something? Because again, I think it's something that could probably freak some people out, that they don't have the ability to change it. But with all the stuff that I've listened to of yours over the years, like that is something that I feel like you really shine in. Something that is like this is the tone. Here we go. And so I can only imagine that is, excuse me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but something that really energizes you, or something that inspires you when you arrive at that sound. So yeah, tell me a little bit more about kind of how the whole mod synth, how that influences, how that's a part of the creative process for you.
I think my own approach to music is very also from a technical side, because that's always what's been interesting. When I first discovered how much you can do on a computer, it kind of, you can do everything. And my issue with a lot of stuff that I did was I had a hard time setting limitations. So whenever I have a new idea, I would have ended up changing or rewritten that song like 5-6 times and turned it into something completely different. Mm-hmm. And at some point I realized, I hope I realized, but at least I've come to experience that I just make something different. It's not necessarily better, but it's just different. I've just changed it again and again. And that process is fun, and it's something that I like to do. Sure. But I also like to get something that's finished. Mm-hmm. And whenever I record something, as you said, that can't be replicated or can't be redone because it happens in the moment, that's when I set my limitations. So I will find a great sound, or just a drone, or something that I think sounds great. I record that and I'll just paint around. So for me, making music is, I think other people have mentioned this as well, but it's very much like painting a picture. So my approach is like, first I make the canvas, like all the sounds, and then I put in like the small melody parts at the end, just to make everything fill up and be a complete painting of sound. Yeah. And that's what I really, really love about ambient music. And I think I've listened to a lot of music the last couple of years, ambient music specifically. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just as varied, or as it can be just as different as to listen to, if I said I listen to rock, what is that? I mean, it could sound in 100 different ways. And the same thing with ambient. It has so many subgenres and so many nuances that I find very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Man, I love it. I'm here for it, man. And again, your stuff is great. I would love to hear, Thomas, a little bit more about what like a day or week kind of schedule looks like for you. Like what does what does making music as Stilhed, what does that look like on a, are you the kind of person who is pretty rigid with the time that you are working on stuff, or which, and again, we're both parents, like we we have small humans that demand a lot of our real time, and this is certainly in young childhood, they get, and they're well deserving of all the time, don't get me wrong, but it is certainly no small things to be, to get any time, if you will, can sometimes become kind of difficult. But tell me what kind of a calendar situation do you usually try to work out for yourself? Are you rigid, or are you very spontaneous? How do you get stuff done?
Yeah. So yeah, as you mentioned, I'm busy like everybody else, and I've my the time I have for music have varied a lot over the years, because I'm educated as a teacher. I don't work as a teacher right now. I have another day job, and I have had like periods where I have tried to do music like full time also.
Yeah.
And that's great. But I also had the experience that I felt like a bit of pressure to make it, make enough to make a living. So especially when you have a family and everything. So for me, I try to use my evenings mostly, and I try to set some kind of time limit to how long time I can use this. This evening, I need to be finished at 10 o'clock, and I'll just let it sit. Because at some point, just as I said before, you're not really creating anything new. At least I am not. Then I'm just starting to change whatever I've just made. And it's better for me, it's better to work fast in small chunks, and then catch up and re-listen a day or two later, or whenever you have time, and then make fast decisions. And I think that was what I really struggled with in the beginning, because I had a lot of time when I was younger. Too much time. And I did get things done, but I spent too much time on it. And today I'm much more efficient. So I think it's, that's, I don't know if I have, I tried actually to also record myself while I make music, just to be a little bit more aware that, I can't go away from my computer or my setup now. I need to finish this first, and then I can take a break in an hour or so.
Yeah.
So I try to set up some kind of barrier that keeps me focused on the thing. And it's a double thing as well, because for me, it's also just a passion, or like when people, I don't know, play tennis or whatever they do. For me, it's a space where I can play. So at some point, that play has to be. Normally, I say this: the last 10% is the hardest.
Yes.
Which often takes like the 90% of the time, because you're playing to begin with. When you do stuff, you just throw out ideas, and then you need to close the deal and get it done. Yeah. That's, I think, whoever sort of cracks the code to how to manage that will really succeed, because I think that's the secret.
Man, you're not wrong in that, and that's, I think, that seems to be a running theme for for not just you and me, but there's certainly others where it can become difficult to gauge. And it sounds like you are more aware of it, which is really, really great. And part of that just comes from experience, and part of that is just showing that you have a mature eye about it. But the idea of knowing when you're just piddling around with something and it's not actually making it better, I think is there is something about the learning that goes on with turning this filter knob and doing this and that, and seeing like how they interact with it. Like I get that there's some educational piece of it, but if I am convincing myself that this version of art is better than the form that it was in before, I mean, it just, there's a lot of lies that can be reinforced. Like, this song is only good if it's got 40 hours of work behind it, as opposed to
and that's really
of work.
And I think actually what I learned when I started doing this, or my experience, was that some of the tracks that I've done best are the ones that I thought the least about.
Yeah.
And just almost spent the least amount of time on.
Yep.
Because you're not overthinking it. So it's very much just a snapshot of what happens in the moment, which is like a bit raw, unedited. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but also I think my process is very much, I work, like I said, in small chunks. So I have like a lot of projects going at the same time.
Love it.
And then at some point I will have like 20, maybe 25 tracks on my computer. And then I will sit down, listen through, and I will pick out whatever fits together. And then that's the last 10%. Then I'll do the hard work. And I don't really enjoy that last part. But everything up to then, I try to just have fun.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing all that. I really appreciate it. So with that, you've got, and I've, really enjoyed listening to your style, over the years for sure, but even was just today enjoying, your new slow echo release, Wayne, is beautiful, by the way, just absolutely love that. But, even Munin, that I believe Marshall did a rework for you. Was that last year that came out? It's, what a great release. And every time that the Bliss, the one that you did with Gabriel, with Norvig, whenever that one comes on, I can't ever not listen to that. I'm always just sit back and
thank you, man.
So
you're so sweet. And that
it's I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it, for sure. But please, I would love to hear, do you have, and you can, if you don't have, if there are secrets that you need to keep from me, that is more than fine.
No,
do you have any?
I don't have any secrets.
Is there anything that's exciting you release wise, or stuff that even just creatively, there's things something that is in the pipeline that you're getting excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I have, like I said, I wanted to have like a few EPs ready already, but I haven't gotten myself together to really do the last 10%. But the stuff
that you don't enjoy,
But the stuff I'm working on now is a little bit more into, I would say, less drony, less drone, a little bit more, maybe bits of guitar, and I play the guitar as my main instrument.
Amazing.
And it's a bit funny because I seldom use the guitar in anything that I do. So I have kind of decided that I want to use that a bit more. I think I should do that.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully there will be elements of that in the next few releases. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then also, I think you mentioned the Slow Echo release I just did with you.
Yes.
And I'm pretty excited about that one too. And it's a bit funny because I did some of the tracks almost, I think it was last summer. And then I spoke with Marshall just before Christmas. And I think actually one of his tracks got turned down. And I can easily see why, because it didn't fit the rest. And then I just decided I would just sit down and just make another track because it needs to be 4 tracks. And that again is one of those tracks that did well. And I think it's because, it's just not, I didn't overthink it. I just made something really quick in the moment. And I should be doing that a bit more, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's what a great lesson to learn. But there is something really humbling about, and again, like what I don't think either you and I are saying is that it is not worth it to work hard on something. By all means,
that's not what I'm saying, because nothing comes out of nothing. I mean, there's years and years and years of hard work before you sit down and do what you do. I've spent so many hours behind the computer and tweaking knobs and finding sounds, so that if I do something and it happens fast, it's not because that it is, easy, because there's a lot of work years before, to learn to listen and to feel what is needed and where to go and how to fix this. Because I think I mentioned before that the technical side of producing is what really have been interesting for me. So I think I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how can I tweak this to be exactly how I think it sounds in my head. And you can't do that just in a hurry. You have to have experience in some way. So I get what you're saying. So, but I think for me, when I reflect on it right now, once you realize that, I think you should try to pursue it more.
Mm-hmm.
So I should try to pursue it more because I can still spend a lot of time rewriting, just adding a bit more, having a lot of self-critique and say, maybe do. And instead of just trusting what you're doing in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to say. If that makes sense.
Very
I hope
much
so.
Yes, it does. And that's, it's a fine line to balance. Yes. But it is worth the effort and the brain calories, if you will. Like it's worth the work to figure out that balance well in your artistry. So thank you for being a great example of it, for sure. Yeah, man.
And you too. And I don't know if you know, but I also listen to your stuff. And I think it was back in 2000 and I can't remember exactly the titles now, but back in 2019 or so.
Goodness.
That was when I really started, digging more into ambient music. And I think you are one of the first artists that I really picked up on. And then, of course, once you get into the algorithm, you get feeded with all the other people. And and now we're here.
And a great
so
group
that's
of
great.
people it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love. Well, thank you for the encouragement. I received that, but man, it's what a journey. We're all in this together for sure.
Yeah, and I hope also. I think one thing I wanted to say. I don't want to talk a lot about myself because I don't think I'm special.
That's what we're here for, man. Everyone's wanting to listen.
But I hope that there are people out there who can relate to my situation. Being struggling. Now, of course, I live in Denmark and living expenses here are pretty high. So either if you want to live as my struggle has always been, should I be like a full-time musician or should I just do something and just do this as a hobby? Because either you live well and you spend all your time and you have you either succeed or you don't. There's no really middle way. That was the way I saw it for a long time until I realized that you can actually, it's not about full time or not. It's about trying to use the time you have and be, don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the lesson that I've had to learn. And my situation right now is that I have a full-time job. I just changed to another job last summer. So of course, the last half year or so, I have had a lot of new learning. So I haven't had that much time for music. But I guess that will come back again. And I'm really thankful for that I can still be releasing stuff and get it out somewhere where people listens and hear what I'm doing. Because I think for everyone who makes art or makes music, they want some kind of, I wouldn't say recognition, but it's always great to know that somebody listens to what you do.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really thankful for that. And also actually pretty surprised. I remember when I made those tracks I mentioned before, Jacob told me, hey, you could do an ambient version and then release it. I thought to myself, well, maybe I could get like a few thousand plays, like if I was really, really lucky. Yeah. And I mean, I've long time succeeded beyond that.
Well, and, I think even just on Spotify alone, it's over 7 figures for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't foresee that in any way at all 5 years ago.
Love it.
Yeah, 5-6 years ago. So yes, I just want to mention that as an encouragement to everybody else.
Absolutely.
You never know what will happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and what a great, I feel like there's an important piece of that. Something that I've been kind of chewing on a lot recently is the idea of the why behind our, why are we doing this in the first place? Why are we making music? And if at the end of the day, the driving force is, I need this number of streams to, to make me feel better about myself, or I need this amount of, revenue coming in from this and that in order for me to be like, I am finally legit. I am finally professional. I'm finally, this is, I am now a real musician. I'm all grown up, that sort of thing. And not, it's exactly what you said. None of that's true. And the fact that that you, I mean, you even said that you tried it at one point, going full time, and there was just a different level of pressure on it that you felt was. And I excuse me if I'm putting words in my mouth, or correct me, please, but it seemed as though like there was the pressure from the full-time nature was creating a negative part of the process that wasn't allowing you to continue to make music the way that you wanted to. And
exactly.
So then backpedal and find the balance so that you can still be the full version of the artist that you are, while balancing, you know, all the other things that need to happen.
That's very true, because once you do that, you get deadlines, like really strict deadlines. And if you don't deliver, you don't get paid, and if you don't get paid, you have a problem. So it's a balance in between there. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, and everyone's got their journey for sure. There is no, you know, there is a right answer to that equation and a wrong answer for each person. It is not the same for each person, but there is, like you found, there is, and even if it's just for that season or for, you know, just whatever the balance is, you figured out by process of elimination which one was not the right one, and then so then to find how can I do this the right way. I know that I'm grateful that you're still making beautiful Still Hill music for sure, and I know that there's a lot of other people who are grateful that you figured out that balance too, because now you're still pumping out stuff, and grateful for that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh my,
you too.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. We have, you know, it's funny because like there's typically a section at the end of these interviews where we talk about like the lightning round questions and like, hey, let's talk about some of that stuff. We've touched on a lot of things in the lightning round. I typically talk about some of the things that you're kind of geeking out on and things like that. I'd love to hear more. By all means, I'll ask you that question. But you've already given some incredible advice for folks who find themselves in similar situations and are asking what next and all that. Thomas, you're just a gem. I'm so glad that we've
you're so sweet.
Gotten this chance for sure. But are you okay with us hitting a couple of the lightning round questions? That
we can do that.
Amazing.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
So lightning round does not mean short answer, but lightning round means first thing that comes to the top of your head. And you just don't, again, like with your music, just don't overthink it. Like, let's just go.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what is one unusual thing about yourself, Thomas, that most people probably don't know to date?
Most people. Yeah,
I mean, maybe your wife and your kids are aware or something.
I haven't thought about that question.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, maybe if we talk about the audience, maybe they're not aware, but I actually grew up as a third culture kid at some point.
Wow.
I went to my father is a doctor, and he worked on some hospital projects in Africa, in Tanzania, when I was a kid.
Wow.
So that's probably something that most people don't know, except if they know me really good. But you know,
so you lived there for parts of like
for a few years. I was in Africa as a kid.
Oh my goodness, formative years, in fact.
Yeah. Most people don't know that. So
yeah. What? Okay, now I'm putting you on the spot, but like, what would be like just with that experience? Like, what do you feel is like maybe just one? I'm sure that there's a million things, but what would be like one thing that is really that, you know, the opportunity to spend, you know, the years that you did in Tanzania and elsewhere with your dad, who's doing, you know, great things with his profession, and that what from that experience do you feel has allowed you to look at life in a different way, or in a you know, a more a broadened way? Just curious.
You're so good at asking questions.
Man.
Yeah, what have changed? I'm not sure. It's really I had mixed feelings about that time of my life.
Sure.
Because
rightfully so.
There was good experiences and really bad experiences as well. But I think experiencing a completely different culture compared, which is just so different from anything I knew and my friends knew here in Denmark.
Right.
I would say gives you a little bit different, a little bit more open mind about people can be different than you. And that sometimes when we don't understand other people, it's not because they are, it's simply because we don't understand their culture. I think that's the thing I've learned from that. But I don't really know what to answer.
No, you more than answered it with that. That's such a great response. And even, if we were to translate that to, to artistry, like I think it's a great reminder that like, don't be offended when there's someone who doesn't like your music or doesn't listen to your music or is like, what is this? I just don't get. Be like, that's great. Like I have no problem with you not understanding. Because you're aware of how many different cultures, of how many different opinions and how many different lives are just being lived around the planet and throughout the decades and the centuries. And perspective is an important thing for sure.
And also we are everybody, and also in Western culture and music, we are very colored by everything that we hear. So some of the styles and music that you will find in other countries, you're completely right. There's not something that's better than other. There's just a different experience from where you stand.
Yeah. There's this is kind of going a direction that's maybe a little different than what we were talking about, but there's a lot of studies, like psychological studies done on like the period of your life from like 13 to like 20 years old, and how impactful the music that you listen to then will be for the rest of your life. And just the way that as your brain is growing and as your prefrontal cortex is becoming like the full adult version of itself, how much we connect with what we're hearing. And that's you take that concept and then you attach it to the fact that there are billions of people living in all these these different corners of the globe, and the different expressions of sound and music and culture that they're all engaging in, and they're very differently informed life experiences, human experiences. And so how beautiful it is that anyone lines up with the experience that we have, informed by the things that we've listened to and that we are creating and putting out into the world. But it's good to have the perspective that there's just so much more out there, because I think it like simultaneously makes me appreciate people outside of what I do, and outside of the myriad of genres that are out there. Is just wild to me. But also it makes you even more grateful for the people who, like you said, who do show up and say yes to your music and say like, this is meaningful to me. Given all of those factors, like your music is meaningful to me, and that's a big deal. It is. It's a big deal. Yeah, man. Well, Thomas, you're a big deal to me, and you're a big deal to the all ambient listeners, and I feel like that's probably a really good spot to end this. You're just so kind to set aside the time, but also just thank you for like shepherding what you do, stewarding what you do so well, and continuing to put things out and balance everything that life is asking of you. And yeah, man, I'm really, really grateful that you're doing it, and I hope you don't stop. And thanks for sharing it with all of us. Yeah.
I won't stop. I mean, it's so much part of my life, so I can't. I won't.
Yeah, well,
I'll find a way to continue.
There
whatever
you go,
happens.
man. Yeah. Well, and I'll speak it right now. I don't know if you and I have officially connected on a release yet, but I have a feeling that the time should probably come sometime soon, and we'll figure out the project that is right to say yes to. So we'll get there. Yeah. Amazing. Well, Thomas, thank you for all the time, and thank you for just being so gracious and candid with everyone who's listening and encouraging. And I know it's not going to fall on deaf ears.
I hope not. I think not. Yeah, thanks for everybody who's listening. I just want to thank you for being such a good host.
Oh, man.
I really admire great way of being able to ask good questions. I love listening to this podcast as well. So yeah.
Well, I receive that, and I sometimes feel like I need to just shut my mouth and let the guests go a little bit. But there really is value in what you have to say, and if there's a way to just continue to catalyze that, that's really all I want to do. So I'm really glad. Thank you for sharing everything that you did. And it means the world. And I'm sure we'll be connecting with you soon. And is there any project coming out in just the very, very near future that we want to plug, that we want to turn people onto? Certainly Wayne, that just got released, but anything coming?
No, I haven't. As I said, I have so many projects. I have I think I have 2 EPs.
Yeah.
Like 95% ready. It's been sitting on my computer for 2 years. And I think that'll probably be the next. And then I have those 25 tracks that I need to get the last 10% done. 10%, so man. I can't promise anything, but there will certainly come something. I'm not, I would like to try to do a little bit more self-releases as well.
Yeah,
I haven't done that a lot. I've only released a few singles, but I would like to do like maybe a full album or at least an EP.
Awesome.
Just as a self-release also at some point. So that's my thoughts. And of course, a little bit more of my guitar as well in the music.
Yes,
I would love that.
Well, then that's just enough of a tease for all who are engaging with this episode too. No matter when in the future they happen to be listening to this, to head over to and we will have links in the show notes, but to head over to Stilhed on your favorite streaming platform and listen to everything that you've got going on by all means.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Awesome.
And Mike, I have one thing I need to say to you. I was listening to the podcast one day in the car, and then my wife was sitting next to me, and she was saying, "Wow, I don't know, is that Seth Rogen?" So it may be just be the accent. So
wow, that's I promise you that I have never.
You never heard that?
Had that? No, but you know what? I'm going to take that as a compliment because
do that.
Dude has been making crazy stuff for a long time, so I'll take that, man. That's great. All right, now I'm trying to think if I should work on a Seth Rogen impression or something.
Yeah, you should do that. I think you'll do well.
Oh man, he's got that laugh that's okay. Okay, there we go. That is the perfect end.
Yeah.
To this episode. Thomas, you are the best. Thank you for your time. It means the world. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Thanks again for joining us on the All Ambient podcast. This is about as shameless of a plug as it gets, but it really does help for those of you who are watching to give us a rating if you're on any podcast platform like Apple or Spotify or anything like that. On YouTube, we would love a follow, a subscribe, a like, all that fun stuff. And please leave a comment, a review, whatever is applicable to the right place that you're finding this. It really does go a long way. You don't have to make anything up by any means, but if there's some value in this podcast for you, we'd love to hear about it. We, as the All Ambient family, would love to meet you. I know it does my heart good, as well as everybody else who's involved at All Ambient. So please do so. Come back and join us next week. We've got another great episode coming your way. And until then, here's hoping that this music and the hearts behind it make your day and your life that much better. Thanks.